I do want to ask you about what seemed like some unforced errors from the governor, saying that he carried a weapon of war in war, which he served honorably, but was never actually in a war zone. Talking about his family's struggles with fertility, he said that an attack on IVF is an attack on his family. They didn't actually use IVF. They used a different fertility procedure. These seem like unnecessary errors.
Well, look, I mean, the reality is, as it relates to the fertility issue, the governor and his wife struggled with fertility, like millions of Americans do throughout this country. And the reality is they sought a treatment. Luckily, they were able to be successful with IUI. They didn't need to seek out IVF. But under Donald Trump and J.D. Vance's policies and proposals, of course, we would see total bans on IVF around the country. And that's what we're really talking about here. And the same thing with the weapons of war comment, right? And when you put it into context, the governor did carry a weapon of war, right?
Sure, but not in war.
Well, that's correct. But the reality is he knows weapons of war. He's fired weapons of war in training. And the reality is at the end of the day, he knows weapons of war should not be on the streets throughout America. And that, when we put it into context, what the governor was saying and what he means is that we need gun control in this country. We need to make sure that weapons of war are not on the streets. We need IVF treatments in this country. We need to make sure that people who are seeking out fertility treatments can get them successfully.
You know him. Do you think he understands that these embellishments hurt the message that he's trying to deliver?
I don't think they're embellishments, right? Maybe he misspoke, but they're not embellishments. He served. He carried weapons of war. Him and his wife actually sought out fertility treatments. There's nothing that's embellishing his...
He said things that weren't accurate.
Well, he misspoke. And it's not an embellishment to say that we sought fertility treatments. It's not an embellishment to say that he actually carried a weapon of war.
All right, guys. So once again, we got to talk about lying weirdo psychopath Tim Walz, Kamala Harris's vice presidential running mate, who I believe officially accepted the nomination last night for the vice presidential nominee. And the reason why we got to talk about Tim Walz is because the mainstream liberal media is being forced to continue to talk about the lies of Tim Walz, okay? Because this guy has revealed himself to be a pathological liar. This guy has literally lied about everything, including how he had his kids, okay? He claimed that he had his kids through IVF. Turns out the fertility procedure that his wife underwent was not IVF. And now, again, there's a whole big kind of thing about him lying about that, right? I mean, this guy lied about his military rank at retirement. He lied about going into war, fighting wars, being an Afghanistan vet. This dude is clearly, obviously, a pathological liar. He's lied about his whole life. Wouldn't be surprised if he's lying about things that are much deeper than what we're talking about. But yet, Democrats continue to say, oh, well, he misspoke, right? He didn't embellish. He didn't lie for political gain. No. He misspoke, okay? He misspoke about all of these things, including the accusations of stolen valor, which is something that the GOP and the veterans in Congress are not letting go, okay? Because they have written a letter and a ton of GOP members, veterans, have signed it saying that, yeah, we condemn Tim Walz's stolen valor, okay? We're not going to let it go. It's a big deal. It's a big deal in the veterans community. And the fact that this guy is still on the Democrat ticket as VP really is a shame, okay? This is essentially the argument that is being made. And Brianna Keilar of CNN is not going to like this, okay? If you guys recall correctly, this woman has basically been defending Tim Walz's stolen valor more than anybody else in the media, right? She's getting upset and pissed off at anybody that criticizes Tim Walz. She's clearly playing defense for the Democrats, and she's going to do that again in this interview with Representative Mike Waltz of Florida, who is going to talk about this letter. And she's clearly going to get upset with the fact that the GOP, that veterans are not letting this go, right? They're not letting Tim Walz's stolen valor slide. So without further ado, let's get into it.
She owns all of it. And we're going to continue to make that case. But we don't even have to as Republicans. The world is going to continue to be on fire under their leadership. I'm worried about the next 5 months, much less the next 4 years.
Ties to that terrorist organization, I think they're classified as operatives, and Al-Qaeda and ISIS obviously were never gone. I know, as you say, they're back, but I take your point on that. You are out, as other GOP veterans are, with a letter attacking Tim Walz's military service. Why are you doing that?
No, I disagree.
You were attacking
I'm sorry,
his
Brianna.
you were attacking. Well, I read the letter, so then okay. Well, you were attacking his representation of.
I'm attacking the lies about his service.
You were attacking. Let me say what's in the letter.
Okay.
The comment about the gun, the weapon of war that he obviously didn't carry into war, and he should answer a question about that, and how he represented his retired rank, which was obviously different than what he was promoted to and what he retained after retirement, but also that issue of whether he abandoned his unit for a deployment to Iraq and did not go. I want to play something from a former Guard member who served for about a decade alongside Waltz. This is someone I spoke with, Joe Eustace. Let's listen.
I don't see eye to eye on any of his politics. I disagree with many of the things he's enacted as governor and those things. I felt, like I said on a different show, I'm really not defending Tim Walz. I'm defending what I know about a soldier who I served with.
I mean, that man hates Tim Walz's politics. Despises them, is not going to vote for him, but he served with him and he knows his service. So why are you and other Republicans doing this?
Well, I want to be clear and correct your characterization. I'm not attacking his service. I served in the National Guard for 22 out of my 27 years, and I know plenty of guardsmen and reservists who served. Maybe they went to combat, maybe they didn't. They retired at a certain rank. Good on them, and I celebrate them. He said he's proud of that service. If he's so damn proud about it, why does he have to continue to embellish it and to lie about it? Because the facts are clear. He was promoted to sergeant major, but he didn't do the things necessary to retire at that rank and was demoted. And yet there is ample, hundreds of incidences where he is describing himself as a retired command sergeant major. That may sound like semantics to some, but to veterans, and particularly enlisted veterans, that matters. It's a lie. It's a misrepresentation and exaggeration, and he should account for that. I can tell you as the commander of the National Guard.
I just want to be clear with the letter, and I'm reading this. I'm reading this, Mike, and, quote, abandoning the men and women under your leadership just as they were getting ready to deploy was certainly not honorable either. That is an attack on his service.
That is an attack on the decision to not go to combat with his unit as a leader. I was a commander of a unit. I had personal and other issues that I would have rather dealt with. But as a commander, and particularly as a command sergeant major, and by the way, you know, I've never seen a National Guard unit not know at least a year in advance. And his commander and his replacement have both said on national television that he knew. Yet he made a decision to not lead those men and women downrange to combat. He said that there were rumors. He should have to account for that decision. And yet,
Joe Eustace, and you know this as well as a former Guard member. There are often, you have a sense that you may be deploying. You don't always know necessarily where that is going to be. There's always frequently something on the horizon. As Joe Eustace pointed out, he has 5 sons in the Guard right now, all of them rumored to be heading somewhere. I think it may have been reasonable to assume it might be Iraq, but he also put in his, he had declared for his candidacy before you saw those orders come out. I mean, what do you say to that? Because I know you're holding up what some guardsmen who serve with him said, but you have others, and ones who were not passed over for a promotion. Ones who, in this case of Joe Eustace, someone who does not like his politics, but says he was a good soldier.
Brianna, rather than defending these decisions, I wish you would interview him. And
Facts. I mean, that's what this comes down to, right? So what you guys just saw there, okay, is Brianna Keilar for 5 minutes straight tried to do what Tim Walz should be doing, right? This is the state of journalism, guys. I want you guys to understand. This is why I just let this video play, right? I just let it play because I want you guys to just see uninterrupted how these people clearly are acting as propagandists for Democrats. She's playing defense for Tim Walz. She knows damn well that it's not just one person who has come out and said that, hey, Tim Walz, there are questions about his military service, right? We believe that he abandoned his unit, right? He lied about going into war, which is stolen valor, by the way. She tried to claim that he didn't commit stolen valor. It's like, no, if you say that you went to war, even though you did not go to war, you were not in a war, then that is stolen valor, right? By definition. But what she's doing here is that she's basically trying her best not to say that Tim Walz lied, right? She's trying her best not to tell the truth about what he did. Instead, she's trying to make it seem like the attacks from the GOP are out of bounds, right? Well, you guys are going too far with this, right? Look, one person said that Tim Walz was a good soldier, okay? Therefore, you guys should just quit with these attacks, okay? Now, again, I wonder what Brianna Keilar had to say about Andy Beshear wishing that J.D. Vance would go through a rape so that he can get pregnant in order to prove a point about abortion, right? Is she speaking out and telling Democrats, hey, you guys are going a little bit too far with the attacks here? No, of course not, right? She would never do that, okay? But again, when you have people like this in the media, when you have defenders like this in the media, then why should Tim Walz have to answer any questions, right? In a normal world, okay, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz would feel compelled to actually sit down for an interview and to answer these questions, to respond to these criticisms, but they don't, because they don't need to. Why don't they need to? Well, they don't, because you have people like Brianna Keilar who is going to defend Kamala Harris and Tim Walz without them having to do so, right? All Tim Walz has to do is watch this interview of Brianna Keilar, defend him, and he could just say the exact same things that she's saying, right? But again, the sad part about it is that she acknowledges that, yeah, he should answer questions about this stuff. He should answer questions about misrepresenting his rank, aka lying about his rank, right? That's what he did. He lied. He should answer questions about lying about going into war. He should answer questions about the allegations of him abandoning his unit to run for Congress when he found out that he was going to Iraq. He should answer these questions. But again, he doesn't have to, or he probably doesn't feel compelled to, because he has defenders in the media like this, right? I mean, what's happening right now, honestly, should be a violation of federal campaign finance laws, because this is an in-kind contribution to the Kamala Harris, Tim Walz ticket, right? That's what's happening right here from CNN, from a so-called journalist, okay? She's using her title as journalist to defend, to play defense for the Democrat Party. Because here's the thing, if these allegations weren't legit, it would have went away, right? The problem is that these allegations are so legit that people are so upset about this, rightfully so, they're still talking about it. It's been a whole month of us talking about this, almost a month. It's been at least a couple weeks, and we're still having a conversation. Why? Because the allegations are legitimate, and Tim Walz still hasn't answered any questions about the allegations. They're pretending as if people are attacking Tim Walz's military service as a way to deflect, but it's not working, right? It's not working. People aren't that stupid. Everybody knows people aren't attacking Tim Walz for serving in the military. They're attacking him for lying about how he served in the military. A distinction that Brianna Keilar is smart enough to understand, but she doesn't want to make that distinction because at the end of the day, she's playing her role as a propagandist, right? And this is the state of journalism. It's non-existent, right, in 2024. These people are just playing for the Democrats.
And ask him those questions, or that he would at least sit down and answer for these inconsistencies. The other thing we say in the letter is repeatedly he was described in front of him, introduced at events, described in articles as a combat veteran, and he did nothing to correct it. And he still today is doing nothing to correct it. So he clearly implied and allowed others to describe himself as a combat veteran, and he clearly exaggerated his service, which he shouldn't have done, for political gain. That is unacceptable to the veterans community. It's an insult to those who did what it took to be a command sergeant major and retire. For example, you don't get to go take some classes at Yale and then leave and say, I graduated from Yale. There's a clear distinction that he made that he shouldn't have made. And that goes to both his judgment and Harris's judgment when he's going to be a heartbeat away as commander-in-chief, and likely the only person with any military experience in the room.
Yeah, look, he has some questions to answer for. I don't know if it's worth burning down 24 years of service.
Me or J.D. Vance and answer those questions. The American people deserve it. The veterans community certainly deserve it.
All right, Congressman.
Yeah, so you see the framing here, right? She's trying to say that he's burning down 24 years of military service, which, again, is not what he's doing, obviously, right? But this is the way she's trying to frame it because she really wants the GOP to stop talking about this. Please stop attacking Tim Walz. Stop. He's dead already. Stop, right? That's basically what she's doing. Okay, that's what she's doing. But, you know, in my opinion, I think that this guy has a point, right? He's saying, listen, it speaks to Kamala Harris's judgment that she picked a guy like this who has all these skeletons in his closet that lies compulsively, right? So it seems she should have done a better job at vetting an individual like this, and it seems as if she didn't, right? And again, it would be wonderful for her or for him to answer some questions, but they're not answering questions. But then again, they really don't have to when you have people like this in the media, right, that are going to defend them no matter what, that are going to pretend as if the criticisms against them are unfair, out of bounds, right, all this and that. But again, we know that these people would never do this on behalf of a Republican. When have you ever seen a CNN anchor or anybody in the liberal media really defend a Republican from unjust attacks, unfair attacks, untrue attacks from the Democrats? You've never seen it. Right? You've never seen it. They don't do it. But again, they will bend over backwards to defend Democrats, though, even when it's indefensible. Everybody knows the man lied. And they try so hard to go out of their way to say that he didn't lie. But when it comes to Trump, though, and Trump will say something that is truthful, and these people say, oh, he's lying, right? That's a lie, okay? They do not hesitate to say it's a lie. But when it comes to Democrats, though, they want to beat around the bush in regards to what they actually said and the fact that they're lying. Again, it's amazing. It's amazing how these propagandas work. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.